And still on the Israel-Hamas face-off, Fredman, a former staffer for the Ministry of Strategic Affairs and director for Israel Institute, is joining me on the news tonight, live from Israel. He will be giving us more updates on the Israeli-Hamas face-off and the release of Aidan Alexander tonight. Thank you indeed for joining us on the News Blitz. Aidan. All right, so the last living Israeli-American hostage, Aidan Alexander, has been released. What is the mood in Israel as we speak?
Well, this is a joyous day for Israel. Every Israeli desperately wants to see all of our hostages that have been held in the dungeons of Hamas, a radical Islamist group, for 500, close to 600 days now. So it is a day where Israel is celebrating. At the same time, Israelis are looking forward and saying, how can we, on the one hand, return all of our hostages, on the other hand, make sure that Hamas is never able to take hostages once again? And how can we create a better and more stable future for the people of Israel and for the people of Gaza?
You know, there had been a lot of issues raised before Aidan's release today. In fact, we all know that U.S. President Donald Trump should be visiting tomorrow, Tuesday. But really, what measures were put in place to ensure his release before we come to that? I mean, Aidan's release.
So this has definitely been in the making, and President Trump and his team were definitely a very important part of this agreement. We have a few factors here. One, Israel very clearly declared its intent to launch an intensive military campaign to dismantle Hamas if they don't release the hostages. On the other hand, President Trump said very clearly to Qatar, we have to remember, Qatar is a primary sponsor of Hamas. That's quite a lot of leverage over Hamas. And I think President Trump said to his Qatari counterparts, I would very much like to see this American Israeli citizen who's being held by Hamas released before my trip. So I think it was the American pressure on Qatar, the role of President Trump, of Witkoff, of other mediators, and the Israeli military pressure in parallel that led Hamas to agree to release Aidan.
So, some people wonder, as we speak right now, can you tell us the number of Israeli hostages still with the Hamas? And do you think that with Aidan's release, the United States will still be committed to ensuring that other hostages are released?
So President Trump and his team, Special Envoy Witkoff, Special Envoy Bowler, have made very clear that they are committed to this goal of seeing each and every one of the Israeli hostages returned. There now is believed to be, now that Aidan has returned home, and in these very moments, he's reuniting with his family in these incredibly beautiful scenes. There are approximately 20 hostages still alive, it's believed, in the Gaza Strip, and I believe 27, I believe, that are no longer, who are being held, their bodies are being cruelly held by Hamas. But are believed to no longer be alive. And Israel and I believe the United States is committed to bringing every one of those hostages back home.
Say they're alive. Not only Israelis, others who pay attention to what's going on in the Middle East, especially between Israel and Hamas. I wonder indeed if Israel is aware of their state of health or whether they indeed are alive. I'd like for you to respond to that clearly.
Again, Israel is constantly gathering intelligence as to the state of our hostages, constantly the troops on the ground, captured Hamas terrorists who give information. So Israel does have a pretty good sense. Again, nobody knows 100%. You have to recall Hamas is not allowing the International Red Cross to visit them, is not allowing any international actor to visit them in violation of every international norm. So there isn't complete certainty, but based on all the intelligence that we have, we believe that there are now 20 hostages still alive in the Gaza Strip.
All right, now, what is the Israeli government doing to ensure the release? Because I know during the last ceasefire, everybody thought, the Israeli government would be able to get as many Israeli hostages out as possible. We saw what transpired. But right now, the Israeli government is saying that it's not going for a particular kind of ceasefire. It keeps pounding at the enemies. In what ways do you think Israel can get the remaining hostages released and, of course, them being alive and safe wherever they might be held at the moment?
Israel faces two strategic goals. One is our absolute moral imperative to return each and every one of our hostages. And the second is our absolute moral imperative to ensure that Hamas cannot carry out another October 7th rampage of murder, kidnapping, and rape. Now, the only way to do that is to ensure that Hamas is no longer the dominant power in Gaza. And we have to be clear, Hamas has been weakened, but they still are the dominant power in the Gaza Strip. They still control food and fuel and the population. We've seen over the last few days that courageous Gazans have spoken out against Hamas, have been murdered, they've been shot in the legs by these Hamas brutal terrorists who still control the Strip. So Israel's trying to navigate between these two absolutely critical goals: returning our hostages and eliminating Hamas as the dominant power in the Strip. And that's why Hamas has been demanding a ceasefire, which Hamas's goal is to survive. Hamas has been demanding a ceasefire that allows it to survive as the de facto rulers of Gaza, and that's something that Israel can't accept. And that's the dilemma that we're currently navigating.
Before I let you go tonight, I mean, Israel's been talking about the latest Gaza plan. I'd like for you to give us an update on that. Is it about totally taking over Gaza, as some have seen it to be, or there could be some other compromises here and there?
The goal is to uproot Hamas's terror infrastructure. And that requires, it's not a question of permanently capturing and holding Gaza. It's a question of staying in there for as long as necessary in order to uproot Hamas. Hamas hides its weapons in hospitals, in civilian homes. Its tunnels come up under children's beds. So it's going to take a while for Israel to find all those terror tunnels, all of those weapons storehouses, all of those Hamas terrorists that put on civilian clothes and join civilian populations. So in this envisioned Operation Gideon's Chariots, as it's been called, the idea would be for Israel to hold the territory as long as necessary to identify the Hamas fighters and Hamas infrastructure. But again, it may well be that we will see a delay or a pause in this planned operation if the negotiations for further hostage negotiations, according to the outline that Envoy Witkoff proposed, if those proceed, it's a question mark whether or not this operation will indeed begin.
Indeed, Asher Fredman, former staff of the Ministry of Strategic Affairs in Israel, we thank you indeed for joining us on the news on Silverbird Television today.